Good morning and thank you all for coming and listening to us today. Before we start, we'd like to introduce ourselves. I'm Elijah Cole. I'm in the Mechanical Technology Program at Northwest Career and Technical Academy here in Las Vegas, Nevada.
This is Nia M, and I go to Clark High School.
Hi, I'm Brando Battaglia, and I go to West Career and Technical Academy. I'm in the engineering program.
Hi, I'm Brandon Schenkhausen, and I go to Carson High School.
I'm me. I just pressed the wrong button. There you go. Okay. So we'd like to describe our shirts to you all. We're called the Pavers, with our motto, paving the way for the future. As you can see on our little shield here, we have a road that's leading the way to the sun, representing the pathway to the future. Within the sun's rays, you can see 4 letters, E, B, L, B, standing for Elijah, Brando, Leah, and Brandon. Because, you know, we're building the way to the future. So, there's a serious problem with Boulder Highway and all the roads in the valley. In a packet that we received earlier this week, we added up and there was a lot of crashes and fatalities. And when you think about it, there shouldn't be, because that means that there's someone in someone's family who may not have got to go home that night. And as you can see in these photos, you can see a fatal crash and police investigating over another crash. So we've come up with some solutions, and I'm going to pass it on to Leah, who will start with the first couple.
One of our solutions that will help with faster transportation on Boulder Highway is a monorail. This is not a solution to remove RTC from the streets, but rather to work with them. The raised monorail stations would be a mile apart with elevators, stairs, and escalators in order to reach them. The new bus stations would be placed in between the monorail stations and existing bus stops. This makes it so that you can move to any spot at any time. Another idea we have is a zip line. Doing this will attract families and tourists. It would also bring life back to Boulder Highway. Now I'll pass it on to Brando.
Thank you. Some of the other solutions that we have are full pedestrian phases, brick crosswalks, and hydraulic raising road blockers. We decided to go with the full pedestrian phase because normally a pedestrian will have to wait 180 seconds before crossing the street, and then another 180 seconds to cross the second half, because most intersections on Boulder Highway only give pedestrians enough time to cross halfway. And then if they wanted to cross down 2 full crosswalks, because say it's diagonally across, then you would have to wait for a total of 540 seconds or 9 minutes. So we decided to use a full pedestrian phase, which allows pedestrians to walk in any direction, even diagonally, for 3 minutes. But what if a car decides to drive in anyways because they're impatient or whatever? I don't know why you would be. But we decided to install the hydraulic raising road blockers, which stops the cars from going any further because it's like a pop-up wall, you could call it in a sense. And then we also decided to add the brick crosswalks because when a car drives over them, the car will slow down, or the driver will slow down rather, because it shakes them and the car, and nobody likes the shaking of them or the car because it's weird and doesn't feel nice. And so now I'll pass it on to Brandon.
Okay, so another solution we have is the roving guys at all the pedestrian crosswalks to remind pedestrians to look left and right and left again before they cross. And we should also add lighting to make it a little bit brighter and provide protection for both pedestrians and drivers. A few more things that aren't pictured are lower speed limits, such as 35 miles per hour.
We also want to add something called the light rail. When you think of the light rail, you think of this. Well, you're wrong. The light rail that we're talking of is a completely new and original idea. So much so that that's going to have to stay a red X because we can't find a photo of anything similar to it. The light rail illuminates pedestrians. It's parallel to the sidewalk, and so as they're walking by, it'll light them up. The lights follow the pedestrians as they walk down the walkway. There would be sensors connected to the top and bottom, such as the ones that you see at Target's freezer section, where as you walk by, it turns on. Yes. And it notifies of anything in the street. Sometimes there's stray animals or people who just are lazy and don't want to walk down to the nearest crosswalk, and they'll run out into the middle of the street. There'll be a red light on the top and bottom, which flashes notifying the cars that there is something out in the street that is potentially hazardous. And it also benefits animals. Once again with the stray animals. And there's some leashes out there that are super long, like from here all the way over to that exit door. What if you're, walking down the street and your dog just happens to run out and you're not paying attention? You don't want to see little Fido get ran over. So we made a little model, which may not have got a little bit damaged. But essentially, this opening would point towards the buildings and the crosswalk and would light up the pedestrians. There's a hole on the top and the bottom, which would hold the red light, so that way, it flashes to the drivers. I'm gonna talk to Brandon. I'm gonna pass it off to Brandon, who will continue with the presentation.
We can't leave the streets looking the way it does. We wanted to make it look more like Vegas. So we added desert landscaping, designed sidewalks, and fountains in the intersection, or the median, that have watersheds, and shading to keep the temperature lower.
So we worked really hard on this model, so we're gonna go ahead and explain it to you, whether you like it or not. So, as you can see, we have our beautiful monorail there that's sort of fallen over, but that's okay. Connected to it are the 2 stations and some falling stairs, and an elevator that would help for people who cannot climb stairs. Our hydraulic raising road blockers are represented by the orange triangles in between, right in front of the intersections. The protected bike lane is represented in green, allowing bikers to, bike. Brick crosswalks. Once again, as Brando said, it is human nature for when a person drives over something and it shakes them around that they want to slow down. More businesses. As you can see, there are colorful businesses on the side, and they will be brought closer to the front. And right there, right where Brando's shoulder is at, is a black piece of paper. That leads to a parking lot behind the buildings, so that people can safely get out of their cars and walk over to the businesses. The zip line is underneath the monorail, which would add an even more cool factor. If you're riding it and a monorail flies over your head, you go over an intersection flying over cars, or even a water show happening right below you. The light rail is parallel to the sidewalks as little white pieces of paper. Street lights hanging over the sidewalks and streets to add more light. And narrower streets, because people tend to slow down when they don't have as much room to go. And then some of the things that are not pictured are once again the Danish offset crosswalks and the roving eyes.
Do you have any questions?
Anybody got a question?
No questions? That's lovely. Oh.
So can we zip line to work?
I mean, if your job is at the start of the zip line or at the end of the zip line and you want to start at the start, you can. There's nothing against that.
Yeehaw! Now you're talking.
Any other questions?
So with your light rail, I'm proposing that, I'm guessing it's going to be running along the sidewalk, correct? And where the red and blue lights come out, are there going to be selected locations? Because you kind of could have a hazard enter into the roadway anywhere.
Yes.
So is it going to be all the way open on the top with the 3 lights basically? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. We didn't really consider that, but I could give you my contact information. And if at any point in time I do come up with a solution, I will go ahead and send that your way.
I just basically need to keep a track of your name for a future patent, don't I?
Yes. I honestly don't care if you use it, just give me a little bit of credit.
But it doesn't really move people, right? It's just a light.
Yes, it's a rail with a light.
It illuminates the pedestrians that are
Yes.
walking
Yes.
the sidewalk, but then there's an added feature when there's a hazard in the roadway.
Yes.
Right. So it would break break at intersections so well, what I thought was cool about your light rail was that it might prevent some people, even though I hate that channelizing stuff, but this would be a cool way to channelize pedestrians if you had a rail there that would be a barrier for them to dart out into the street. Right?
And another factor with that is if a police officer happens to be driving down the road or walking on the sidewalk and they see those red lights going off, they can run over there, drive over there, and see the person who is crossing unsafely. Yes. Are there any other questions?
So you wouldn't use the existing median to design the overhead?
Yes.
You wouldn't use the existing median? Is that what it is?
We would use the existing.
You would, okay.
Yes, we would revitalize it with water fountains and decor.
But the monorail would not go through the center?
No, it would be elevated above it.
But still above the median? Okay.
Yes.
So regarding your zip line, do you have some visibility about the number of passengers that could be using the zip line at one time?
No, we do not. But you could always add in, like down on Fremont Street, they have multiple lanes which could be added in as well. Are there any other questions? Thank you.